our thing is recording, and then all right, you ready?
All right, it says live.
Yeah. All right. So welcome back, everybody, to another live video from In a Heartbeat. Today, we are excited to have one of our board of directors and one of my close friends, Chris Gatcomb. So I appreciate you taking the time, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So before we start, just be curious to hear what you've been up to since the COVID-19 pandemic started. I know everybody's kind of hanging at home. So how's it been going for you?
Good, yeah, same old, just kind of staying at home. I was actually out traveling for work when things started to kind of ramp up here in the States, you know, like the NBA shut down their season, things like that. I was actually out in Vegas, so I got home as soon as I could, and been home ever since, just kind of self-isolated.
Definitely. So we're going to, Chris has an awesome story that we're going to get into a little bit later, but just to give everybody some background, Chris and I actually grew up together, and we played in the same youth basketball team when we were young kids. His dad was the coach, and we actually both went to Quinnipiac University. And just to give people some background, Chris, you went to Quinnipiac, you graduated with a degree in political science, but then you decided to go the route of enlisting in the Coast Guard. Can you just kind of talk about your thoughts behind that decision?
Yeah, so when I was at Quinnipiac, I declared myself as a political science major, and I was in the accelerated master's program to get my master's in teaching. So my junior year, I started doing like my student teaching for that program, and just wasn't really for me. Kind of fell out of love with it. So ended up removing myself from that program. Ended up finishing with a political science degree without the master's. So once I got out of college, I was like, well, it's time to find a job, right? And I always had the passion for serving my country, so I decided to before I enlisted, I applied for officer candidate school, which I was rejected from, but it was probably a blessing in disguise, to be honest with you, because enlisting, I think, was one of the best decisions that I've ever made, and one of the best things that's ever happened to me. And I was able to kind of learn from the bottom up and meet a lot of great people. Some of my best friends right now are people that I met in the Coast Guard. So
that's awesome. Well, I think I can speak for everybody listening. We definitely appreciate your service. Can you just talk about a little bit about like some different places you were deployed in different parts of the world that you've been in your experience with the Coast Guard?
Yeah, so immediately out of boot camp, I was stationed in Bellingham, Washington, which is up in like the northwest corner of the country, close to Canada. I was on an 87-foot patrol boat out there, and we did a lot of work in the Puget Sound. We also did one deployment down to like the Mexico border. And then from there, the way it works in the Coast Guard is you start as what's called the non-rate. You basically don't have a specialty, and then you go to A school. And for my A school, in particular, aviation maintenance technician A school, there was a pretty long wait list. So in order to accelerate going to school, I volunteered to go overseas to this little island called Bahrain, which is like a tiny little island off the coast of Saudi Arabia. And I spent a year there, and by doing that, it put me at the very top of the list for AMT A school. So after that year in the Arabian Gulf, I went to North Carolina for A school, and that's kind of where things changed for me in terms of my involvement, I guess, with In a Heartbeat sort of started because of I'm there.
Yeah, exactly. So January 22nd, 2017, your life obviously changed. Can you just talk a little bit about what you remember from that day?
Yeah, it's easy. I don't remember anything. but from what I've been told, right, the last memory I have is the night before, you know, going to bed the night before. I was there a few days early. My school was supposed to start on January 23rd. So on Sunday, January 22nd, I don't remember this, but my buddy Nick was there with me, and we went to the gym that morning around 7 o'clock. And shortly after, I mean, we weren't really that far into our workout. We were sort of still warming up. I got off the back extension machine. We were doing like weighted back extensions, and I got off the machine. He said that I like looked sort of like just not myself, and I started stumbling around, and eventually collapsed and went into cardiac arrest. And that's when he sort of sprung into action and you know, notified the authorities, and got an ambulance there, performed CPR, and actually shocked me twice with an AED before I kind of came back. So
we talk a lot about like AEDs and having them be accessible, and I think if I remember correctly, can you just talk about where was the AED that he found to shock you with?
The AED was actually sort of like hidden under a desk. Luckily they were able to find it in time, but it wasn't necessarily, I guess it wasn't like right out in the open for where everybody could notice it, which obviously isn't ideal, but you know, it did work out because I'm here. I'm here to talk about it. So
Yeah, of course.
I'm just glad that they have it.
Yeah. So, you know, you wake up in the hospital, and you know, I'd imagine by the time you woke up, your family's there. You know, do you remember anything from like your reaction to like how you felt and basically that feeling of like, what the heck am I doing here?
Yeah, I mean, I sort of remember waking up and just feeling like I got hit by a truck. I mean, it was like when your body shuts down like that, it does a toll. I actually ended up, one thing I do remember that's kind of weird is that I bit the tip of my tongue off. So I remember like talk, and it was just like weird for a while. But yeah, I remember waking up, and you know, my parents had gotten there by then, and you know, my mom is a nurse, and she was nurse practitioner, and she's you know, she sort of explained it all to me, and I was just kind of in shock, like didn't really believe it at first. I didn't really know what day it was. I figured it was like still Sunday, because I remember the Patriots were playing the Steelers that night. And I kept asking, when do the Patriots play? And my dad was like, they already played, bud. They won. It was like 3 days ago. So
yeah, that's awesome. You know, I'd imagine, like, you know, growing up, you know, you probably, you know, were obviously training, and you definitely were training at a really high level, being, you know, in the Coast Guard. Would you have ever thought that you possibly could have had something happen with your heart, being like a young, healthy, fit guy?
not even in the slightest. Now I remember when everything happened with you, you know, being young, and you know, you're what, a year older than me. So I must have been 15 or 16 when you had your cardiac arrest. And, you know, I remember it being a shock, and just thinking like, oh man, like, you know, and then you were diagnosed with HCM. So it's like, okay, well, at least there was a reason for what happened to Mike. And, you know, to this day, they still haven't been able to figure out what happened to me that day. You know, I just got some genetic testing done, and it all came back negative. So really still up in the air with what happened that day. And it just proves that no matter how healthy you are, no matter how fit, whatever the case may be, it's still, you know, it still could happen. And I was really lucky that someone was around me that knew what to do and reacted properly. Yeah.
Can you talk about like your first interactions with Nick when I'd imagine he came to visit you in the hospital, and just kind of like what that reaction was like, and you know, what the feeling was to kind of just be sitting there in front of somebody that saved your life.
Yeah, I mean, Nick's reaction, obviously being very gracious for the fact that he saved my life. And his reaction was, no worries, bro. You would have done the same for me. And I think that's like a testament to his character, because he came in the hospital and he asked me to move over so he could sit on the bed with me and just kind of hang out and chill, watch TV. And I was like, all right.
Yeah.
So nothing's changed, really,
Yeah, right. It's a pretty surreal feeling.
Yeah.
And I've been lucky enough to meet Nick, and it's really cool to just kind of just see that relationship. And obviously, it's nothing you ever expect would happen, but it's really cool that it did and it worked itself out. But so the doctors obviously, they told you at some point in the hospital that I guess you weren't leaving until you had a defibrillator implanted in your chest.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about that? I mean, obviously it's got to be a kind of a uneasy feeling knowing that you're going to have this random piece of metal in your chest when the surgery's over. I don't know what were your reactions when they told you about that?
Well, I remember my first reaction that I was most concerned about was whether or not I'd be able to stay in the Coast Guard. And my second one was whether or not, when they told me kind of like where it would be, I was like, man, is this going to affect my golf swing?
I can attest to the fact that it hasn't.
Yeah. We've worked through that issue. First issue though was, unfortunately, I was discharged from the Coast Guard due to the accident, and the fact that it was strongly recommended that I have an AED or like an ICD placed in my chest. And I'll be honest with you, I wasn't for it at first because I thought it was an absolute deal breaker for me staying in the Coast Guard. But then, I was convinced that my overall safety would obviously is more important. So kind of had to live back, but.
Touching on something you just said, I mean, I don't know if you could talk briefly on, obviously you had a dream, which was to, go to AMTA school. And that got taken from you. And obviously I can't even imagine how hard that was for you. Do you have any insight for, obviously this happens to people in their lives where, things don't go their way and things get taken from them, just kind of how you were able to deal with that and get through it and basically just kind of get over the fact that you were never going to kind of achieve that dream that you had?
Yeah. I mean, it was tough at first. It's still tough, but kind of roll with the punches. And I mean, the overall sort of benefit of what happened is that I'm alive, and that's most important, right? And it's giving me the ability to get involved with this great foundation, which has been a big part of my life since it.
Yeah.
Obviously, you're going to be dealt with, you're going to deal with some challenges, but as long as you make the best of every day and just, I still, although I'm not, working on helicopters or airplanes like I wanted to, and flying around in the back of them, which was probably one of the most fun parts of that job. I still have a love for engineering, and I plan to continue working on cars. I'm trying to get my private pilot's license. So the dream doesn't stop with the Coast Guard. It's still alive. It's just taking a little bit longer now that we have some equipment in the chest.
Yeah, exactly. So I am going to talk a little bit about you getting involved and us kind of reconnecting. So I still remember where I was when you reached out to me. I was, working out in the gym on a Thursday night. And I guess, I couldn't believe it when I read your message. And obviously I had a ton of different emotions. The most important one being that I was just happy that you were okay. We ended up connecting for breakfast when you got back from North Carolina, back to Connecticut. And now you are on the board of directors for In a Heartbeat, as well as your mom. I guess can you just kind of talk about your passion for the work that we do as an organization?
Yeah, I mean, it's organizations like In a Heartbeat that I credit my survival. The fact that, we train and we donate AEDs to businesses and places that just need them. And I strongly feel that they should be in all public places, because, that day that I went down in the gym, if my buddy Nick didn't know what to do, and in terms of like the CPR and, alerting 911 and applying an AED, there's probably one in a million chances of survival at that point for me. So it's the education part of things and the actual physical donations of AEDs to public areas that that's just so big for me. And that's like, I want to make sure that as little people possible go through the experience that I went through.
Yeah, that was kind of led me up to what I was going to ask next. Just, I guess, how does it feel like you and your family went through something that was extremely traumatic and in reality could have been very tragic? How does it feel to try to prevent families from having the near tragedy that you had?
Yeah, I mean, that's what, that's like a big part of my involvement in a heartbeat, is that my goal is to make sure that no other family has to, or no individual has to go through what I went through. And then on top of it, the whole family dynamic too. We recently had an AED that saved somebody at an heartbeat, and that's like, that was, you hate to celebrate the fact that happened. Someone went into cardiac arrest and potentially could have died, but the fact that one of our AEDs that we donated saved a life is just one of the coolest things ever.
Yeah, definitely. And I think you might have already answered this. So we obviously, since you joined the group and started working, I think we've taken some great strides and new things that we're doing. One of the more recent things, I guess, programs that we're implementing is a cardiac screening program. And I noticed might not have necessarily helped you, just because your program, you're undiagnosed, I guess, per se right now. So it might not have made a difference. But you just kind of talk about the importance of, or your thoughts on why it's important to screen young kids with EKGs.
Oh yeah, that program that we're working on rolling out is going to be huge, and the fact that we're going to be able to screen young kids that are involved in athletics or whatever the case may be, and that they can get a free screening that wouldn't normally be covered under insurance for a physical, and potentially exposing them to some life-threatening conditions that they might not know they have is huge. Being able to prevent something before it happens, instead of the AED program is essentially reactionary to somebody having a cardiac arrest. But if we can alert somebody of that potential down the road and essentially take care of it before anything bad ever happens, is huge.
Definitely. And I know you mentioned this before. Your mom is a nurse, and she's actually taken a huge lead on this program. And we've taken some great strides with it. Unfortunately, our first screening was scheduled for May 2nd, and at this point, we're going to be rescheduling it to a later date with the COVID-19 pandemic. But without your mom's help, there would be no cardiac screening program, which is really cool.
Yeah, she's putting me to shame.
Yeah. She's using her experience. Us young people have all these great dreams and goals and these things we want to do, and people with experience tend to make them happen, but they make them happen the right way. We think we can just snap our fingers and they're gonna happen, but she's kind of paved the way for us doing it. That's all the questions I have. Is there anything else you want to add about any of your experiences in a heartbeat to anybody listening out there?
Yeah, it's such a great foundation, and it's a testament to how hard you. I know that we're all on the board and we all work hard, but it was basically started by you and your mom, and the amount of work that you guys put into it is inspiring, and it's really cool to see where it's come from, even from when I started. I think it was before I started, you guys were like maybe a year or two old, right?
Yeah, I'd say maybe 2017. So we probably at that point have just had donated maybe like 30 AEDs, and
Yeah.
since
And
then
now
we've
we're
donated 127. So
yeah, so now we're pushing, a lot of ADs out there in the community, which is great. Trained a lot of people, raised a lot of money for HCM research, and now we're starting to dip our toe into the cardiac screening program, which is awesome. So, just thanks to you for kind of doing all the work that you do to get this foundation going.
Yeah, it's a fun thing. We have a good group of people, and I appreciate it, but wouldn't be possible without everybody, which is awesome. So, cool. All right. Well, Chris, thanks for taking the time. I hope everybody out there can, obviously it's stories like Chris's story. That's why we do what we do, to save people from cardiac arrest. So, as always, if there's anything any of our programs can do to help anybody listening or anybody watching, please do not hesitate to reach out. Visit us on our website, www.inaheartbeat.org. If you're watching on Facebook, share the page with your friends. The more people we make aware of our mission, the more lives we'll be able to save. Thanks, everybody, and we'll see you soon.
Thanks for listening.